I certainly agree with your sentiments, Your Excellency. Your points were illuminating and highly relevant in today's changing world. And I think this leads very nicely to our next presentation, which is food security in a changing world, complex challenges and global responses. The presenter is His Excellency Gerard Seeber, the Consul General for Australia in Dubai, also Australian Trade Commissioner's Senior Trade Commissioner for the MENA region. His Excellency graduated from the Australian National University and a graduate of the Company Directors Program for the Australian Institute of Company Directors, and various different executive courses from the J.F. Kennedy School at Harvard University. His Excellency started his career, I think he prefers not to think about it, but way back in the 80s, originally in Milan, then to Tehran, then to Latin America, then to New York, and various other postings. Today, His Excellency is now based in Dubai, and it's a great privilege and honor to have His Excellency Gerard Seeber, Consul General for Australia for Dubai and Senior Trade Commissioner for Australia. Gerald.
Anyway, as I say, my presentation today explores the concept of food security and the challenges and diverse range of factors from local to global that impact it. So what is food security? The critical importance of addressing the global food security challenges is clear in the focus of this forum. How much nutritious food an individual can access and use is affected by multiple factors on a global, national, regional and household scale. The concept of food security captures each of these dimensions. To be food secure, a sufficient supply of nutritious food must be available, whether through domestic production or trade. Individuals need the means to buy food, as well as having physical access. The challenge of food security is heightened by the growing global demand for food. Worldwide demand for food is projected to rise considerably, with estimates ranging from 60% in the first half of this century, with 3/4 of this growth just in Asia alone. The causes of food insecurity are complex and include poverty, poor infrastructure, natural disasters, and a lack of social protection. For example, food availability and access to food varies over time because of harvest cycles, adverse weather, political instability, and failure of infrastructure and other factors. Reducing global food insecurity will require sustained, coordinated action across a range of economic, social, and environmental policy fronts. This includes agricultural development, as well as broader policies such as investment, infrastructure, trade, environment, and employment. Any lasting solution to food security will need to address a wide range of issues and be based on a clear understanding of the longer-term factors in play. In many ways, this is about advancing sustainable economic development. So let's just talk a bit about Australia. Australia's approach to domestic food security and contribution to global food security is through cooperation and participation in multilateral organisations and illustrates some of the responses we can take. Australia is in a strong position as a food producing nation, ranking 15th in a recent assessment of 107 nations, and that was an EIU Global Food Security Index, which I think we're hearing about a bit later actually. So that's the gentleman just there. This supports high levels of domestic food security as well as enabling a contribution to the food security of other countries. Australia exports over half of our food production each year. In 2011-12, Australia exported $30.5 billion worth of food products compared with imports of 11.3. Australia is a significant exporter of food products to the Middle East region. In 2012-13, Australia exported $4 billion worth of food products to the Middle East, including 6.4 million tonnes of cereals, crops and pulses, 440,000 tonnes of horticultural produce, 183,000 tonnes of meat, 80,000 tonnes of dairy products, and just over 2 million head of livestock. Through increased trade cooperation, Australia is committed to working with governments and commercial partners in the Middle East region to help countries access the food they need. Free and open markets, allowing the import of food where it is needed, are an important contribution to regional and global food security needs. However, Australia is not self-sufficient. Even surplus producers like Australia can suffer from droughts, crop failures and natural disasters. Australia seeks to maintain its domestic food supplies and contribution to regional and global food security by fostering competitive and productive agricultural industries, including by investing in rural research and development, maintaining Australia's biosecurity and promoting sustainable use of productive natural resources. Recognising the challenges Australia's agricultural sector will face in recent years, the Australian Government is ensuring Australia's continued food security by promoting stronger and more competitive agricultural sectors. The Government is preparing a white paper on agricultural competitiveness in Australia, which will be completed by the end of this year. This paper will look at ways to boost agriculture's contribution to economic growth, export and trade and innovation and productivity. The Government is also looking at potential for development of agriculture in Australia's north to increase food production capacity and agricultural exports. The Australian Government spends around $700 million each year on rural research, development and extension via the 15 rural research and development corporations, cooperative research centres, our Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organisation, Australian Research Council grants, universities and departmental programs. The Government provides around $250 million each year in matching funding to the rural research and development corporations and plans to invest an additional $100 million over 4 years from 2014-15 onwards. This will result in greater capacity to deliver cutting-edge technology, continued applied research and increased emphasis on collaborative innovation. Funding will also be allocated to projects that openly enhance agricultural profitability, level out competition and better leverage coordination and cooperation between stakeholders. These initiatives aim to help Australia meet its current and future food needs, ensuring that we will continue to be a reliable supplier to regions such as the Middle East, Asia and other international food markets. Now, Australia strives to be a safe and reliable supplier of food. We are committed to improving regional and global food security, principally through a diverse approach. Emergency assistance and social protection for those most in need, improving agricultural productivity, particularly through increased investment in research, undertaking projects to protect the productive base and sustaining the natural environment such as soils, building community resilience by providing support for establishing and improving social protection systems that reduce the vulnerability of the poor, improving rural livelihoods by improving functioning of markets and infrastructure in ways that increase incomes and employment and reduce the risk for the rural poor, and supporting market-oriented economic trade and agricultural policies and good governance. Australian food production and the overseas application of Australian agricultural research and expertise helps feed up to over 400 million people. Australia works with multilateral and regional institutions concerned with global food security and helps countries most in need through targeted development assistance. For example, organisations working on food security include the United Nations and its various agencies like the Food Agricultural Organisation and its Committee on World Food Security, the World Bank, regional development banks and the International Monetary Fund, the OECD, APEC, the Gulf Cooperation Council of course, and other regional organisations, and the G20. The WTO plays an important role as a forum that provides for a rules-based trade system, helps liberalising trade in agricultural products. Open markets help food move from where it can be efficiently produced to where the demand is. Through our engagement on food security in the WTO, we support discussions on legitimate food security concerns without distorting trade. I would like now to take the opportunity to update you on the food security and agricultural activities of the G20 during Australia's presidency 2014. G20 leaders have agreed that strengthening growth and creating jobs must be a top priority in 2014. Australia will structure discussion tightly around the key themes of promoting stronger economic growth and better employment, making global economy more resilient and better able to deal with future shocks. Australia recognises that food security and agriculture are important issues for G20 members and the broader global community. Australia is committed to working with G20 members to develop concrete practical actions that materially improve global growth and build resilience in global economy. Delivering growth and jobs, in turn, helps to address a key underlying cause of food insecurity, which is people's ability to purchase food. Alongside the core agenda, in 2014, the presidency will continue and strengthen some of the G20's existing agricultural and food security initiatives. We will also help the G20 define a sustainable and coordinated coherent policy approach to food security over the longer term. And in 2014, just to give you an idea, the key actions will include conducting a review of opportunities for economic growth and job creation in relation to food security and nutrition. This will be commissioned by the G20 Development Working Group. The findings of the study will underpin future leader-level G20 actions that add value and complete other global efforts to achieve a food-secure world. An agricultural officials consultation on the review is scheduled for 7 March, so not too long in the future, in Canberra, in Australia. Supporting continued development and evaluation of the G20 requested framework for analysing policies to improve agricultural productivity, sustainability by the OECD, with potential for its broader application across other economies. And a workshop on the 6th of March to discuss the framework is scheduled in Canberra. Also, working with the Agricultural Market Information System, called AMIS, this will help deepen and consolidate members of the G20, their collaboration, foster sharing global community market information to ensure transparency and ensure open discussions about volatility, so trade responses to market movements benefit everyone. And an AMIS Rapid Response Forum is scheduled again on the 6th of March in Canberra. And there will be a meeting of the agricultural chief scientists, which will be solely focused on agricultural productivity. So that's just sort of a brief summary of how Australia sees food security and the responses, especially at the policy level, and especially how we interact with the G20, of which we have the presidency for this year, and the impact that can have on what we do with food security. So, thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would now like to introduce Dr. Tony Wigg, who will join our panel for quick Q&A. Dr. Wigg represents Australia on the policy and technical issues relating to agricultural exports and works closely with government agencies. He has over a quarter of a century's experience in these matters, and I'm sure he'll be able to answer any question that you may have. We have got some floating microphones, so if any questions regarding both presentations and also Australia's stance on agricultural food exports. Okay. There is one question that I was actually thinking about doing a presentation, and that was the issue of technology transfer. Australia has actually done remarkable things with its yields, both in agriculture and also red meat. How can this technology be transferred to poorer countries, especially in Africa and South Asia?
Thank you. Okay. Yes, certainly Australia does try and transfer technology, and I suppose there was a very recent example of Gerard was mentioning how we do a lot of research and development. I think we said there's $200 million a year goes into scientific research and development. A lot of this is through industry bodies, so the research is committed to achieve an outcome, and often the requirement of the government putting in the money is dollar for dollar. So the industry must set its own agendas and put in their own money. And a good example of the question you've asked is Australia is leading the world in research of arid climate wheat varieties. And I think there's two CSIRO scientists who've developed a number of wheat varieties, and these are already in use in African countries. So once the variety has been established and used, some of these developments that happen in Australia are readily available to be used in other countries.
We have a question at the front. Can we have a mic there, please? The gentleman at the front, and then the gentleman at the back. Just here. Can you raise your hand again so the young lady can see you? Just there. Can you please mention your name and your organization?
Hi, I'm Arul Jabri. I'm from Sultan Qaboos University, Sultanate of Oman. We know that the Australian economy is strong, and probably this is going to cause some trouble for export from that side. As we heard lately, Toyota is going to stop their plants, for example, in Australia, because one of the reasons mentioned is the strong Australian dollar. So as you know that there's a high competition for food products, and price is usually one major factor in this matter. How do the Australian government is going to tackle this problem with the strong economy, strong Australian dollar, in order to boost their export?
Yeah, look, we have, I think we're in our 23rd year of growth, so that's the only OECD country that's grown for that long. The Australian dollar has been extremely high in the recent half decade, last 5 years. We've been over $1, but it's slipped down to 91 cents. So it has declined slightly, which of course benefits Australian exporters. And the government is fairly comfortable about an exchange rate slipping more than that. And of course, in that sense, that's already a boost to trade, to export. But also, as I mentioned in the speech, the government's very serious about how do we increase, or how maintain and increase employment and productivity right across the economy, but in particular in agriculture, and that includes trade. It includes investment, and we heard about Hussard Foods investing in Australia into grain and meat production. There is strong interest in the GCC about agricultural investments in Australia, and Australia is open for that style of investment. So in a sense, it's sort of a macro view, a strategy about what we need to do as a country. We have a floating exchange rate, so we can't manipulate that, but we can have the settings. And there are global influences, of course, global growth, regional markets, which will impact the exchange rate. But we're in a situation now where I think for Australian exporters it's a better situation than we had a couple of years ago, and that'll feed into growth and productivity, especially in the agricultural sector.
We have a question at the back.
Yes. My name is Nadeem Nahid. I am working for Abu Dhabi Gas Liquefaction Company in Abu Dhabi. Talking about production, mass production and distribution for food, mainly for hungry people, where it was we mentioned we have around 1 billion, almost 800 million to 1 billion people who don't have enough food. It is very essential and very, we have to take care of that, of course. Now, my question is how we can sustain that food, that mass of production, in order to keep it, to be fairly distributed to people. We see places in the world where my observation is we have to change the habit and culture of eating, first of all. I give an example like buffets. We have hundreds of tons of food, clean food and very healthy food thrown to the garbage on a daily basis. Because we cannot keep, in buffet, in hygienic wise, we cannot keep it for more than 2 hours. After 2 hours, it has to be taken out and going to the garbage. This is one factor, and this is also bad for the health. When I am going to eat in a buffet, the temptation is very high. I am eating from different kind of food, different kind of salads and sweets. While if I am having it by plate, silver plated or plated meal, I'm eating only what it is in front of me. This is one. And secondly, also we have to change the habit of eating meat. Now, we eat meat more than we need, more than what we require. And some places, some countries, they eat meat on daily basis twice or sometimes 3 times a day. This we can help in reducing and changing this habit by utilizing the media and awareness in the media to tell everybody, to explain to everybody how how much is bad to eat meat on daily basis, and especially the meat, because 1 kilo of red meat require between 10 to 20 kilograms of grains, while 1 kilo of meat, red meat, might feed 5 to 6 people. 10 to 20 kilograms of grains will feed 70 to 90%. This is my concern, and this is and thank you very much for allowing us to participate in this genuine and unique conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Tony, do you want to take that one?
Yes, thank you. I think that's an excellent question. I think it summarises some of the issues we had yesterday and will come up again today. Certainly, as we heard yesterday, wastage of food is one of the areas that must be solved in moving forward for food security. As much as we're working towards increasing productivity and distribution of food, it was clear in some of the presentations yesterday that in a number of countries the wastage percentage is quite high. And again, we talk about transfer of technology, and I think Australia, in terms of grain handling systems, is already extending its technology and knowledge into other countries, because this is one of the, obviously, the key figures we saw yesterday, just in cereal growth and handling and logistics, is up to 16% wastage compared to some other countries where it's 2%. So obviously an immediate change can be made there. And I think, as you said, and that's the purpose of this World Food Summit, we must know the problem to solve the problem. And it was good to have all the ministers speaking yesterday, because there's work scientists can do, but culturally there's changes must be made in society, and the issue of wastage is one of them. What to eat is another one, and I think the Nestle presentation yesterday was good too, that people, as well as having food, must have nutritious and balanced food. How much meat to eat or whatever is obviously something that must come out, but I can remember 1995 research by the World Health Organization there was a number of countries where the meat was one of the solutions to the poverty. There was, in fact, just not enough meat for some of those countries. And that comes into the debate this afternoon. So there wasn't enough confidence in the halal integrity for people to get good meat that they could add to their diet. And the final issue, I suppose, as you said, is productivity. We must have, in the food systems, we've got limited resources, limited water. We just must use research and scientists to improve the productivity of all the systems and extend that knowledge wherever we can.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for an excellent response to the questions. I can actually see a number of questions, a number of hands being raised, but we're actually running a very tight ship. But both Gerald and Tony will be available during the networking break, so you can ask them questions then, and they'll also be available during lunch. So that's a great opportunity to catch up with our presenters and our speakers, and also fellow participants. Thank you.